Okay, so picture this.
It's the end of the month, your salary just dropped into your account.
You feel that little rush for about, I don't know, 4 minutes, and then almost immediately the rent reminder pops up. Then the car payment, then the groceries, then that one subscription you keep forgetting to cancel. And by the time all of that is done, you're left staring at your bank balance thinking, okay, so what exactly am I supposed to invest with here? For a lot of people, that number is somewhere between $20 and $60, and the immediate thought is, that's not enough. That's a nice dinner, not a portfolio. What's the point of even starting? And I get it. My name is Adam, and I spend probably an unhealthy amount of time thinking about money, specifically why some people manage to quietly build real wealth starting from almost nothing, while others wait for the right moment that somehow never arrives. I've read the books, gone down the rabbit holes, watched the spreadsheets, and honestly, the answer keeps coming back to something most people completely underestimate. And by the end of this video, I think you're going to see $50 very differently than you do right now. Because here's the thing, $50 a month invested consistently and with a little bit of strategy has turned into six-figure portfolios for real people. Not in some fantasy scenario, not with some secret hedge fund access, just math, time, and a few habits that most people never bother to build. Let's talk about how. The math nobody wants to believe. Let's start with something that sounds almost insulting when you first hear it. $50 a month invested in a broad stock index fund at an average annual return of roughly 8 to 10% over 25 to 30 years grows to somewhere between $100,000 and $150,000. Some calculators will spit out even higher numbers depending on the rate you use. And I know, 25 years sounds like a lifetime. But here's the part that should actually make you nervous. The people who started 25 years ago, they started the same way. They thought 25 years was too long too. This is the compound interest thing everyone talks about and nobody actually believes until they see a graph. The reason it feels unreal is because the growth is backloaded. For the first 5, even 10 years, it feels like barely anything is happening. The numbers crawl. You're putting in $50 and watching it become 52, maybe 58. You think, what is this? Is this even doing anything? But then somewhere around year 15, 16, 17, the curve starts bending. And by year 25, you're not watching your $50 grow. You're watching the returns on your returns on your returns grow. The money is making money that makes money. That's it. That's the whole trick. It's just that most people quit before the magic part starts. My friend Lewis, classic guy, genuinely one of the smartest people I know, told me around 3 years ago that he was going to wait until he had more money before investing. I asked him what number he was waiting for. He said maybe $500 a month. He still hasn't started. And look, I love Lewis, but those 3 years, they're gone. That compounding window closed. The version of Lewis who started with $50 3 years ago would be in a better position right now than the version of Lewis still waiting for the perfect moment. The point isn't that you need to invest a lot. The point is that you need to start, full stop. Why $50 is actually the perfect number. Here's something counterintuitive. $50 is in many ways a better starting point than $500. I know that sounds backwards. Let me explain. When you start with $50, the stakes are low enough that you don't panic. You don't obsessively check the market every morning. You don't sell when things dip because honestly, it's $50. What's the worst case? It drops 20% one bad month? That's a $10 paper loss. Annoying, sure. Life-altering? Not remotely. And this matters enormously because the number one reason people destroy their own portfolios is emotion. They invest a large chunk, the market dips, they freak out, they sell at a loss, and they swear off investing forever. The market was never the problem. Fear was the problem. $50 trains you without punishing you. It teaches you how to watch a number go up and down and feel nothing, or at least feel a little less than nothing. It builds the psychological muscle of being an investor, which is honestly harder to build than most people expect. And practically speaking, $50 a month is achievable for almost anyone who takes a hard look at their spending. I'm not here to tell you to cancel your Netflix or stop eating avocado toast. That conversation is tired and honestly a bit insulting. But I will say that if you sit down and look at 3 months of bank statements, you will find $50 somewhere that isn't doing anything useful for you. a subscription you forgot about, a habit that got expensive, an impulse that became a line item. $50 is hiding in most budgets. You just have to make it intentional. Where to actually put the money? Okay, so you've got $50. Where does it go? This is where a lot of beginners freeze because the options feel overwhelming. ETFs, index funds, individual stocks, REITs, crypto, bonds. The internet will tell you to do approximately 47 conflicting things simultaneously. So let me just give you the unsexy, boring, proven answer. For most people starting out, especially if you're young, if you have time on your side, a low-cost, broad market index funds is the answer, something that tracks the overall market. In the US, you're looking at things like the S&P 500. Globally, there are equivalent options depending on where you live. Why? Because individual stock picking, the thing everyone imagines when they think about investing, buying that one golden stock before it explodes, requires a level of research, timing, and frankly, luck that most retail investors just don't have consistent access to. And the data backs this up. Study after study shows that over a long enough time frame, most actively managed funds underperform simple index funds. The average person picking individual stocks does even worse. Index funds spread your money across hundreds of companies. When one company fails, you barely notice. When the broader economy grows, and historically, over the long run, it does, you grow with it. The other thing to look for is low expense ratios. This is the annual fee the fund charges to manage your money. Some funds charge 1%, 2%. That sounds small. Over 30 years, it eats a terrifying amount of your returns. Look for funds with expense ratios below 0.2%. Some go as low as 0.03%. The difference compounds just like everything else does. One more thing. A lot of beginner investors sleep on the power of tax-advantaged accounts. Depending on where you live, there are retirement accounts or investment vehicles that let your money grow without being taxed year on year. This is essentially a government-approved cheat code, and people leave it sitting on the table constantly. Worth looking into for your specific country. The automation trick that changes everything. Let me tell you about the single most powerful thing you can do with your $50, and it has nothing to do with picking the right stock or timing the market. Automate it. Set up an automatic transfer that pulls $50 from your account on payday and drops it straight into your investment account. Don't touch it, don't think about it, don't decide each month whether you feel like investing. Just make it happen automatically the same way your rent or your phone bill happens automatically. This does two things that are almost impossible to replicate manually. First, it removes the decision. The single biggest threat to a long-term investment habit isn't bad markets or bad stock picks. It's the month where you think, you know what, things are a bit tight this month. I'll skip investing and catch up next month. And then you never do. Automating takes that decision completely out of your hands. Second, it takes advantage of something called dollar cost averaging. Every month you buy, regardless of whether the market is up or down. When prices are high, your $50 buys fewer units. When prices are low, it buys more. Over time, this averages out your cost in a way that's actually smarter than trying to time when to buy. You're not trying to catch the bottom. You're just consistently accumulating. Lewis, same Lewis, told me once that he'd rather wait for a market dip before investing his first chunk. He's been waiting for the perfect dip for about 2 years. Meanwhile, someone who just started automating $50 from day one has been buying through ups and downs and is now ahead in total units owned. There's a lesson in there. Set it and forget it. Genuinely. The people who build wealth quietly are not the ones refreshing their portfolio every morning. They're the ones who set up the system and then went and lived their lives. The invisible enemy, lifestyle inflation. All right, here's the section that might sting a little. Bear with me. Let's say things go well for you. You get a promotion. Your salary goes up $500 a month. What happens to those $500? For most people, and I mean the vast majority of people, they get absorbed, A nicer apartment, a newer phone, eating out a bit more, upgrading the car. It feels justified because you earned it. And honestly, to some degree it is. You should enjoy the fruits of your work. But here's the quiet killer. If every single income increase gets absorbed into a lifestyle, your investment contributions never grow either. This is called lifestyle inflation, and it's the main reason why people who earn good money still somehow don't build wealth. They're not irresponsible, they're not reckless, they're just spending every upgrade in income on an upgraded lifestyle instead of an upgraded future. The antidote is what some people call paying yourself first at scale. Every time your income goes up, before you adjust your lifestyle at all, increase your investment contribution. Not by the full amount, I'm not telling you to live like a monk, but even directing 25% of every income increase toward your investment account creates the compounding effect that, over a decade, is genuinely staggering. You started with $50, income goes up, you bump it to $75, then $100, then $150, and your lifestyle barely notices because the increases in lifestyle are still real, just proportionally smaller than the increases in investment. This is how people on average salaries quietly end up with portfolios that surprise everyone at retirement. It wasn't a windfall, it was a habit that scaled. Dealing with the months that break the streak. Let's be honest for a second, because a lot of finance content acts like building wealth is just a clean straight line upward, and if you follow the steps, everything works out perfectly. That's not real life. Real life has the month where your car breaks down and the $50 you were going to invest disappears into a mechanic's pocket. The month where something unexpected happens and your whole budget goes sideways. The month where, frankly, you're just exhausted and not in the headspace to think about long-term wealth. These months are going to happen. The question is what you do after them. The worst thing you can do, and this is where so many people quit, is to treat a break-in streak as a reason to start over properly later. There is no later. There is only now and now and now again. Missing a month isn't failure. Deciding that missing a month means you failed and stopping entirely, that's the failure. If you automate your contributions, a lot of these months take care of themselves because the money moves before you even feel the temptation to redirect it. But even if you miss one, the move is simple. Next month, come back. No dramatic restart, no guilt spiral. Just continue. Think of it like exercise. Missing a workout doesn't undo your fitness. Missing a week is a setback, not a surrender. The portfolio you build over 20 years will barely register the months you missed, but it will absolutely register whether you kept going or stopped. Scaling from $50 to something real. Okay, so we've established that $50 works, but let's not pretend the goal is to stay at $50 forever. The goal is to build. So how do you actually scale this? There are a few honest ways to increase your monthly investment over time, and they don't all require a promotion or a windfall. The first is just reviewing your budget every 6 months. Seriously. Not because you need to squeeze every dollar, but because spending habits drift. That subscription crept up. That habit got more expensive. A regular audit often reveals money you didn't realize was leaking, and redirecting even $30 or $40 extra per month into your investment account, compounded over years, adds meaningfully to the final number. The second is skill income. I don't mean you need to build a whole second business, although if you want to, absolutely do that. But picking up a skill that has market value and occasionally monetizing it, even a few $100 extra a few months a year, can meaningfully accelerate your portfolio if that money goes straight in instead of to lifestyle. The third, and this one is underused, is windfalls. Tax refunds, bonuses, gifts, unexpected income. Most people spend these immediately because they feel like extra money, but routing even a portion of occasional windfalls into your investment account creates these irregular boosters to your portfolio that add up more than you'd expect. Put these three things together, budget reviews, occasional extra income, and windfall routing, alongside your base monthly contribution, and you're not just building a portfolio, you're accelerating it.
The mindset that separates builders from talkers. Last point. And I want to take this one seriously, because I think it's the most underrated part of this entire conversation. There are a lot of people who know everything in this video. They know about index funds and compound interest and expense ratios and dollar cost averaging. They can have the conversation, they can recommend the books, and they haven't invested a single dollar. Knowledge, when it comes to personal finance, is almost beside the point. The gap between knowing and doing is where wealth either gets built or doesn't. And the mindset shift that closes that gap, the one I've seen work most consistently, is this. Stop thinking about investing as something you do with the money left over after life happens. Start thinking of it as a non-negotiable cost of living, like your rent or your electricity bill. An obligation to your future self that gets paid first, before anything else. Your future self is a real person. They're going to exist. They're going to wake up every morning in whatever financial situation you build for them right now. You're making decisions for them daily, whether you're conscious of it or not. And the decision to not invest, to wait for more money, to skip this month, those are decisions that your future self is going to feel in very concrete terms. That sounds heavy. I don't mean it to be motivational poster heavy. I just mean the math is indifferent. It doesn't care whether you believe in it or feel inspired today. It just works, quietly, in the background, for whoever shows up consistently. Be the person who shows up. So here's where we are. $50 a month in a low-cost index fund, automated and sustained over time, is not a joke. It's not a consolation prize for people who can't invest properly. It is, for many people, the actual foundation of a real portfolio. The kind of portfolio that 15 or 20 years from now gives you options you don't have today. The ability to take a risk you couldn't otherwise afford. The ability to leave a job you hate. The ability to handle a crisis without catastrophe. It's not glamorous. Lewis would prefer a tip about the next big stock. Most people would. But the boring, patient, automated approach is what actually works at scale for regular people across decades. And look, you don't need to have everything figured out before you start. You don't need a perfect budget, a full emergency fund, a 10-point financial plan. You need $50 and the brokerage account. That's a lower bar than most people give it credit for being. The gap between where you are and where you want to be financially is not primarily a money gap. It's a behavior gap. And behavior is something you can change, starting today with $50. So if this video did anything at all, I hope it made that number, $50, feel a little less like not enough and a little more like the beginning. Because that's what it is. Take care of yourself. See you in the next one.